The certified letter shows up on a Tuesday morning, hitting my apartment door with a harmless little thud while I'm practicing my presentation lines for the quarterly budget review. I almost walk past it, too focused on memorizing the growth projections that might finally land me that promotion. Almost, my name stares at me through the clear plastic window. Thalia Morgan. Printed in harsh black letters that look more like a warning than an address. No return sender, just a law firm crest in the corner. I rip open the envelope, my coffee mug wobbling dangerously in my other hand, and unfold the stiff sheet inside. The very first paragraph knocks the air straight out of my lungs. This letter serves as formal notice that Richard and Eleanor Morgan are seeking restitution in the amount of 40%. 40% of all income earned by Thalia Morgan from the date of this letter forward, as a repayment for financial investment. Provided on May 15, 2016, my coffee slips from suddenly useless fingers, exploding across the kitchen tile of my Seattle apartment. Scalding liquid splashes over my bare feet, but I barely feel it. What the hell? I whisper it into the empty room. I keep reading, my heartbeat pounding against my ribs. Financial investment. Verbal contract. Legally binding agreement. Family obligation. Each phrase lands like a punch. The $20,000 check my parents gave me for college, the one they insisted was a gift. The one I thanked them for repeatedly while juggling 2 part-time jobs to cover the rest, was apparently a contract. A contract I never signed. A contract now demanding nearly half my earnings for the rest of my adult life. I collapse to the floor, ignoring the coffee puddle and sharp ceramic shards, the letter shaking between my fingers. Memories push forward uninvited. The celebration dinner at Pietro's, my dad's Italian place in Reno. A white tablecloth stained with red wine. My mother's pearl necklace glinting as she leaned in, smiling with a warmth she rarely showed. My acceptance letter to Washington State clutched in my sweaty hands, the first in our family to make it to a 4-year university. "We have something for you, sweetheart," Dad had said, his voice thick as he nudged an envelope my way. Inside, a check for $20,000. More money than I'd ever held. "No strings attached," Mom had assured me, squeezing my hand. "We're so proud of you." Dad lifted his glass. "This is our investment in your future, honey. Investment. That word feels entirely different now, 7 years later. As I sit surrounded by cooling coffee and splintered porcelain, my hands finally steady as a cold realization settles in. I grab my phone and dial their number, surprised at how even my voice sounds when my mother picks up. "I just got a letter from your attorney," I say flatly, "about the money for college." A beat of silence. "We've been patient, Thalia. You've been earning good money for years. It was a gift," I insist, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles ache. "You both said no strings attached?" "We raised you," my mother snaps, her tone sharpening. "Everything you have is because of us." I breathe in slowly, trying to keep my voice level. "I worked through college. I paid off my loans myself. That check covered less than a third of everything." "You're being selfish," Mom says. Your father and I are getting older, and Jude needs help with his art career. And there it is, my younger brother. The real motive. Jude's struggling," she continues. "He needs a proper studio, better materials. His work is finally getting traction." I close my eyes, leaning against the kitchen cabinet. Jude, who bailed on community college after 1 semester. Jude, whose art career has always been a pile of half-finished canvases and dramatic excuses. This isn't about Jude, I say, though we both know it is. "Family takes care of family," Mom replies. "What's yours is ours. That's how it works." The words land with jarring clarity. It's how it's always worked in our household. My accomplishments were never solely mine, they were shared property. My college acceptance. My dean's list semesters. My first real promotion. Always our victories, our success. Now my income. I glanced down at the shattered pieces of my favorite mug. The widening stain on the floor, the legal notice demanding 40% of every dollar I'll ever make. "I need to go," I say, ending the call before she can answer. Standing, I step carefully around the mess and reach for a towel. As I kneel to wipe up the spill, something fundamental shifts inside me. The family meant to support me is trying to become my heaviest weight, and I won't let them. 3 days after receiving the certified letter, I needed proof that $20,000 had been given freely. Searching old email accounts wasn't meant to be healing, just necessary. What I find instead hardens my stomach into stone. Thalia's college fund. Return on investment. The subject line of an email from my father to my mother. Dated 2 weeks before they handed me the check at Pietro's. The message loads painfully slowly, as if my laptop hesitates to reveal the truth. Eleanor, we need to be clear about expectations. This isn't charity, it's an investment. When she starts earning real money after graduation, we'll remind her of her family duty. Standard contract terms would request 50%, but 40% is reasonable, since she's our daughter. My mother's response appears below. She won't agree if we present it like that now. It's better to call it a gift until she's settled in her career. The return will be worth the wait. I drop onto my couch, breath suddenly thin. The room blurs at the edges as comprehension slams through me like a punch. This wasn't spontaneous generosity. It was calculated. A plan set in motion 7 years ago, waiting until I earned enough to spring it. My phone rings. Their number. I let it roll to voicemail. 2 days later, I'm standing in my parents' dining room in Reno, the same polished cherry table where we celebrated my college acceptance, now buried in documents. Mom and Dad stand while I sit, the power imbalance obvious. Jude lounges in a corner chair, supposedly sketching, but I catch his smirk whenever he thinks I'm not watching. This is a standard family contract, Dad says, sliding a paper toward me. His voice carries the same stern tone he used when forbidding sleepovers when I was a kid. Your signature acknowledges what we've always understood. I scan the document dated today, but claiming to formalize an agreement from 7 years ago. I never agreed to this. It was implied. Mom cuts in. Pearl necklace catching the light as she leans forward. The same necklace she wore to Pietro's. When family helps family, repayment is assumed. That's how we raised you. You said no strings. Attached, I remind her, my voice steadier than I expected. Dad's expression tightens. Families don't need written contracts, Talia. Your word should be enough. My word, I never promised you 40% of every paycheck I'll ever earn. You accepted the money? Mom says, as if that settles it. Jude finally looks up. Some of us need the support more than others. His tone is casual, but the look he shares with our parents is anything but. The threats begin on my drive back to the hotel. Mom calls, her voice syrupy through the car speakers. Your father and I have been patient, but if you force us into legal action, it will impact your credit, your reputation. Are you threatening me? I ask, gripping the wheel until my knuckles ache. We're informing you of consequences. Dad cuts in, clearly on speakerphone. We'd hate to reach out to your employer about you withholding family resources. My stomach drops. You wouldn't. Family takes care of family, Mom chants again. We'll do whatever is necessary. After the call, doubt gnaws at me. Had I misremembered? Was there some forgotten moment where I agreed? Memory can distort. Maybe mine had painted them kinder than reality. That night at the hotel, I dumped the contents of my emergency folder across the bed, the one with all my essential documents I'd grabbed leaving Seattle. Passport, birth certificate, immunization record, and there, tucked between old report cards, my college acceptance card. The cream cardstock feels heavier than I remember. I flip it over, finding my mother's familiar handwriting. Congratulations, sweetheart. No payback needed. Just make us proud. Love, Mom and Dad. The card trembles between my fingers, relief crashing over me before anger surges beneath it. They had lied in writing, on purpose. Driving back to Seattle the next morning, the eastern Washington mountains rising ahead of me, I wonder if I should just repay the $20,000 to stop this nightmare, or fight a legal battle that could destroy whatever's left of our relationship. What would you do when the people meant to shield you become the ones you must defend yourself against? 2 days later, my phone vibrates during a budget meeting, flashing a number I don't recognize. I silence it, focusing on the projection screen, where Q3 results determine who gets promoted. The fourth unknown call today. My stomach knots as I force a confident smile at Vance, the department head evaluating candidates. Everything okay, Thalia? He asks during the break. Of course, I say, gathering my notes, just keeping my mind on those North Region figures. Vance shifts uneasily. Your parents called me yesterday. The room seems to tilt. My parents. They said you're having financial problems. His eyes flick to my designer watch, a treat after my last bonus. They're worried about your stability. Ice spreads through my chest. My parents called you directly? And HR? Vance nods. They forwarded some family contract. HR flagged it since you're in the running for the senior analyst role. The promotion I've poured 8-hour days into. The reason I skipped holidays and birthdays for work, I see. My voice sounds calm, detached, while inside something splinters. Back at my workstation, Rachel from accounting peers over the divider. Some guy named Jude called twice, said it was a family emergency. My brother now suddenly invested in family. Perfect. Tell him to leave a message if he calls again. I check my inbox, 17 new emails since the meeting. The first, from HR, includes an attachment labeled Morgan Family Financial Agreement with a note asking for clarification. At night, my apartment feels less like a refuge and more like a bunker. I flinch at every ring, send calls to voicemail, lie awake replaying every exchange with my parents. What else might they try? Who else might they reach? Each time sleep nears, another possibility jolts me upright. The next morning, the bathroom. Mirror reflects the shadows beneath my eyes that concealer can't quite hide. I study my reflection, watching my hands shake as I apply mascara. The woman staring back looks familiar, but drained, diminished. During lunch, I buy a leather notebook and divide it into sections: calls, emails, witness statements, under calls. I write Vance's exact words, filling pages until my hand aches. I forward every message from my parents into a separate folder. Screenshot texts, save voicemails. Evidence piling page by page of a systematic attempt to unravel my life. That Friday, 3 weeks after that awful letter appeared, I missed the promotion announcement. Instead of sitting in the conference room celebrating with the rest of my team, I'm parked in a cramped HR office, explaining patiently that no, I never agreed to any repayment arrangement with my parents, and yes, I have proof that the college money was explicitly given as a gift. Your financial volatility creates organizational concern, the HR manager says gently. The senior analyst role needs someone without complications. I smile, professional and brittle, while something hollow inside me finally collapses. I walk home in the evening drizzle, not even attempting to shield myself. The rain soaks through my thin jacket, blending with that cold, this persistent ache that has wrapped itself around my spine ever since the letter arrived. I mute every unknown caller. My inbox fills with unread messages. There's a tight, constant pressure between my shoulder blades, like I've been bracing for impact for weeks. At my apartment door, a wicker basket waits like a small miracle. Warm sourdough, a jar of homemade strawberry jam, and a handwritten note. Some families are born. Others are built. My table is always open to you. Margaret, my neighbor from 4B, the one who waters my plants, the one who never asks for anything. The smile that tugs at my mouth hurts. I cradle the basket like fragile glass all the way inside, overwhelmed by the softness of kindness after so much cruelty. That evening, I open my laptop for the weekly video call I've been dreading. My parents appear on screen, immaculate as ever, Dad in a starched button-down, Mom in full makeup. The same tidy living room behind them, unchanged. As if they haven't detonated my entire life, HR contacted us, Dad says immediately. They're finally taking this seriously. They should, I reply, my voice steadier than expected. You're interfering with my livelihood. Mom's eyes sharpen. We wouldn't have to if you'd simply respect your obligations. What obligations? I fire back. You can't turn a gift into a lifelong debt because you feel entitled to my income. You've always been self-centered, Dad snaps. Your brother needs that money more than you. That accusation, selfish, has followed me my entire life. When I chose a school across the country, when I skipped holidays to build my career, when I refused to bankroll Jude's string of failed business attempts. This isn't about Jude, I say quietly. It's about control. The silence that follows is confirmation enough. We supported you, Mom finally says, voice trembling like cracked porcelain, and something inside me shifts. Their support was never love. It was a ledger. I need to go, I say, and I end the call. The next morning, Margaret knocks. My grandson Robert is visiting, she announces. Consumer protection attorney. Join us for Sunday dinner. He may be able to help. 2 days later, Rachel from work leans over my desk. That Jude guy called again, she sighs. Tried telling management you're unstable. I shut it down and told them, you're the backbone of this department. She waves a hand dismissively. Families suck sometimes. With every act of kindness, my spine straightens a little more. I jot Margaret's note and Rachel's statement into my growing evidence notebook. That night, I dig through storage until I uncover the graduation card Mom's handwriting reading no payback needed. Just make us proud. I find gift receipts, birthday cards, all referencing our gift to you. And tucked in a desk drawer 5 checks I wrote to them, totaling thousands. Mortgage help. Medical bills. Money I gave freely. Money I never asked back. I organize everything in a neat, chronological folder labeled evidence, and sleep peacefully for the first time in weeks until a 7 a.m. doorbell jolts me awake. Another certified envelope. A summons to small claims court. I hold it with steady hands this time. Some battles arrive at your doorstep, whether you invite them or not. Some families should come with warning signs. By Thursday, I'm seated in Robert's law office. The conference room smells like coffee and quiet ferocity. Documents are spread across the polished table like a war map. Hours pass as we sort through 7 years of cards, emails, and receipts. Let's start from the top, Robert says, sliding the graduation card forward. The familiar handwriting no payback needed seems to glow under the overhead lights. He clips it into place on the timeline. These texts next, I say, passing him screenshots. Every message filled with, we're proud of you, and you did this. Never once you owe us. Robert nods. This shows a clear history of gift giving. No reasonable person would expect 40% of your forever income for $20,000. My phone buzzes. Jude. Against my better judgment, I open it. He's posted publicly, my sister, the thief in a pantsuit, stole her entire education. Time to pay up, sis. Robert's eyebrows lift. This actually strengthens your case. It proves this is retaliation, not a contract. More notifications roll in friends. Co-workers. Talia worked 3 jobs. She never took a dime she didn't earn. She's the most honest person I know. Warmth spreads through my chest. These people know the real me. Robert leans back, satisfied. Your brother just torpedoed their argument. Then another email arrives from Mom. It drips with guilt. After all we sacrificed. After everything we provided. How could you? Robert taps his pen. They keep switching between gift and investment. It destroys their credibility. Later that night, I stare at a cashier's check on my table. $26,000. The original gift plus accumulated interest. Everything I could possibly owe, even if their fantasy loan were real, would sending it by piece? Or just by more permission for them to take? The doorbell rings. Margaret again, holding a casserole. She spots the check. That's too much money for people who weaponize love, she mutters. It might buy peace, I mumble. She snorts. Peace bought with ransom doesn't last. Then, Robert filed a counterclaim harassment and attempted financial coercion. I volunteered to testify. You've been a ghost these past weeks. You'd really do that? In a heartbeat, my phone rings. Rachel, your brother called HR again. I told them everything, the harassment, the interference. They're documenting all of it for the court. I sag into a chair, overwhelmed. Thank you. No, she says firmly. Thank you. We've got your back. For the first time, I feel seen. Later, my father calls alone. Talia, he says quietly, maybe we should discuss this privately. I tried, I tell him. You made your stance perfectly clear. He hesitates. Your mother is very upset. So am I. That night, Mom emails. Let's resolve this, just the 3 of us. Like the old days. I forward it to Robert. The next morning, I sealed the cashier's check in an envelope addressed only to their lawyer. Never to them again. A month later, the courthouse echoes with morning light. Robert and I rehearse quietly on a wooden bench. "They're here," he murmurs. My parents approach Holder, smaller than I remember. Dad's hands tremble around a manila folder. Mom's pearl necklace glints, just like the night they handed me that gift. "Dalia," Mom says softly. "Let's talk before this goes further." "I think we've talked enough," I reply. "We've prepared a compromise," Dad says, pulling out papers. 20% instead of 40? "It's fair." Mom touches my arm. "We worked all night." I step back. Her expression cracks, tears spilling instantly. "We're your parents. How can you do this?" Dad leans closer. "If you continue, you're not welcome home. Is that what you want?" I raise a hand to silence Robert. "This is mine," I whisper. I pull the cashier's check from my portfolio. "This is $26,000, I say evenly. The original amount plus interest. This ends our financial relationship forever." Mom's breath catches. "This isn't about money. It's about family duty." I open my portfolio again. "I made a timeline," I say steadily. "Every card, every message where you called that money a gift, every conversation where repayment had never been hinted at. 7 full years of silence until suddenly you decided I owed you 40% of everything I'll ever earn." Dad reaches toward the cashier's check, but I draw my hand back before he can touch it. "I've already given you more than you ever gave me. After graduation, remember? I sent money for your anniversary trip to Yellowstone, for the water heater when it burst last winter, for Jude's endless supply of art materials. Each example lands with quiet precision like soft blows that still bruise. I helped without anyone asking because that's what actual family does. Not." This they exchange glances, some silent negotiation flickering between them. A calculation, not remorse. "The judge will see things differently," Dad mutters. 30 minutes later, we sit beneath the dimmed chandeliers of the wood-paneled courtroom. Judge Harriman, a composed woman in her 60s, with silver-framed glasses, turns page after page of our documentation with slow, meticulous attention. The air smells of polished wood and worn carpet. My pulse thumps in my ears. "Let me understand," she says finally, folding her hands. "You gave your daughter funds toward her education, and at the time you described the money as a gift, correct?" My mother straightens in her seat. "We considered it an investment in her future." I slide the card forward. "Congratulations. No payback needed. Just make us proud." Judge Harriman examines it closely, then lifts her gaze to my parents. "And 7 years later, you're asserting this was actually a verbal agreement requiring ongoing financial contributions." "She knew our expectations," Dad insists, voice tight. Judge Harriman removes her glasses, brows tilting upward. "Mrs. Morgan, are you familiar with the legal definition of a gift?" Mom blinks rapidly. "It was symbolic. We didn't intend it as a literal gift. Symbolic gifts don't usually come with retroactive lifetime payment demands." The judge replies dryly. She continues reading through my timeline, pausing sharply when she reaches the section detailing their calls to my employer. Her expression cools. "I'm dismissing this case," she announces. "Additionally, I am granting Miss Morgan's counterclaim for legal fees, $3,000 payable within 30 days. Mom gasps. Dad's face burns red. "But our daughter," Mom begins. "Your daughter has provided extensive evidence showing no contract existed." Judge Harriman interrupts, "And she has also demonstrated considerable financial support she gave you after graduation, which conflicts directly with your claim of hardship. This matter is closed." Outside the courtroom, Jude waits near the water fountain, arms crossed, expression darkening as I approach. He's wearing the leather jacket I bought him last Christmas. "Congratulations," he mutters. "You'll regret this." Blood doesn't turn its back. I stop beside him, exhausted but firm. Blood doesn't manipulate. I leave them behind, stepping into the sunlight, warming the courthouse steps. Robert follows quietly, offering a nod of respect rather than celebration. That evening, Margaret brings dinner and sits with me on my balcony. The Seattle skyline flickers to life as the sun sets. "Have you heard anything?" she asks. Just whispers. Some of their friends want answers. Dad's golf partner called, asking for the real story. "Will you ever speak to them again?" she asks gently. I don't answer right away. The truth is messy. 7 years of silence about repayment, followed by an ambush demanding nearly half my income. It isn't something you patch over icily. I pulled a copy of the cashier's check from my pocket, tear it into tiny white fragments, and let them scatter over the balcony railing like falling snow. Maybe someday, I say finally, but only on my terms. 6 months later, morning sunlight floods my new 12th floor apartment, casting warm rectangles across polished hardwood. The Seattle skyline stretches wide and glittering beyond the floor to ceiling. Windows a huge upgrade from the old view of a cracked parking lot. I trace my finger against the glass, framing the Space Needle with an idle outline. On my bookshelf, travel photos replace the stiff, forced family portraits. Me hiking in Olympic National Park. A weekend escape to Vancouver with Rachel. Margaret and me laughing at Pike Place Market as fishmongers toss salmon through the air. No pretenses. No expectations. Just real joy. On my desk sits a leather portfolio, financial projections, investment plans, savings growth charts. The top page carries my advisor's note, "Excellent progress toward complete independence." I close it, satisfaction blooming quietly in my chest. This life is wholly, undeniably mine. My laptop chimes an email. I open it, then freeze. "Dear Ms. Morgan, we are pleased to inform you of your acceptance into our executive MBA program 7 years ago." Another acceptance letter marked the beginning of all this. I remember clinging to it with trembling hands, desperate for my parents' approval. This time, I forward the email to Rachel, Margaret, and Robert with the subject line, "Celebration dinner tonight." All three respond within minutes, "Absolutely yes," at Canlis. Overlooking Lake Union glowing in the setting sun, we toast with chilled champagne to Thalia, Margaret says, her silver hair shining like my mother's pearls once did. "The bravest woman I know. 2 boundaries that protect him, freedom that heals," Robert adds. Rachel lifts her glass. "And to investing in yourself, no strings attached." I savor the champagne, bubbles warming my throat. Thank you for being here, for being the family I chose. Later that night, cross-legged on my couch, I finished typing my blog post. I paid my way out of my parents' debt trap. The names are changed. Locations disguised, but the truth remains intact. I hover over the publish button. My inbox contains an email from a podcast. Host specializing in family coercion and financial manipulation. She found me through Robert. "Your story could be a lifeline for someone drowning in obligation," she writes. My phone buzzes. A Venmo request from Jude. "Hey sis, can you spot me $100 for art supplies? We'll pay back ASAP. 8 months of silence." I stare at the request, thumb hovering. Then I open his profile and tap block user. A soft smile forms. I delete the app entirely. Maybe freedom comes from cutting ties. Maybe it comes from standing firm behind boundaries no one can cross. I don't know the perfect answer, but as I click publish, one truth settles deep and steady inside me. My life is finally completely mine.